occupy to develop a project to show how a British mathematician from the 1970s, John Horton Conway, he developed a formula called the game of life. And you can interact with it by creating different configurations of cells. And I want to show you what's possible at 13 in showing how easy it is to get into programming and how the skills you develop can lead you to do very clever things. So please can we welcome Amy Mather.
And I'm 14 years old, and I love coding, and this is how I got into it. So when I was younger, my parents used to take me to places like the Manchester Museum of Science and Industry, also known as MOSI, and at MOSI they organised the Manchester Science Festival. So during the Master Science Festival, there's lots of fun and exciting talks and workshops, and they're held all over Manchester. And some of these are held at the Manchester Metropolitan University. So at one of these events, one of them was run by the Manchester Geeks, and I really enjoyed it, and I found out from them that I didn't have to wait for each year for the Manchester Science Festival to get involved in these kind of workshops, as at a place called Mad Lab, they ran a similar kind of workshop once a month, and they call these tea parties. So at these tea parties, they have tea and they have cake, and they invite girls to come along, and basically what you do is they have either a fun activity or a talk to do. So well, basically, so at Mad Lab there's loads of amazing things that you can do. So they have Arduino meetups, they have 3D printing, and that's just basically. Right, let's start again.
It's escape. Get you out full screen mode. There you go.
Right, here we go. So, hello, my name is Amy and I'm 14 years old and I'm from Manchester. A couple of years ago I started getting into programming and making through people like Manchester Geeks and Mad Lab. So Mad Lab is a kind of community centre in Manchester where they hold Arduino meetups, Raspberry Pi meetups, all kinds of fun and exciting things to do with coding or making. So, when I've been doing the things that I've been doing over the past couple of years, I've noticed that there's quite a couple of problems that are stopping people my age, girls and boys, from getting into the maker culture. And these things are stereotypes. So, if you go into local toy shop, Boots or Tesco's, you tend to have a boys' toys aisle and a girls' toys aisle. And in the girls' toy aisle, there's things like make your own friendship bracelet, washi monsters and things. Whereas in the boys' toys, there's things like science activities. So from a very young age, we're kind of brought up to be kind of conditioned to be either like girls to be all pink and pretty and have like Barbie dolls, and boys are brought up to like cars and do science things. And it's really not necessary because like if you're a boy, then you kind of get picked on for liking pink, and if you're a girl, then you're kind of not meant to like science, which I think is kind of wrong. And another thing is, most people have this as like the idea of a geek. So hands up here, how many of you consider yourself a geek? Yeah. So do you agree with this? It says, like, the dictionary definition of a geek is an unfashionable or socially inept person. And I don't know about you, but I don't really consider myself that. You?
Yes.
If you were a child my age, would you want to grow up to be someone who was an unfashionable or socially inept person? No. So we kind of like need to change these stereotypes because they're not very, they don't like make you want to become part of this culture, despite the fact that it's free. But so one of the things that I attended in summer 2012 was Manchester Mini Maker Fair. So there I exhibited an Arduino volcano, but I also got to see like all the kinds of amazing projects that you can do. So it really kind of inspired me to get involved. And another thing that I did was YRS. So that's like the coding side of it, where the Maker Fair is more like the hacking side of it. So these kind of really sparked my interest in both coding and making. And I think it would be good if we kind of combine the two to kind of like get a mini Maker Fair. So this isn't really like, this isn't me talking at you. I want ideas of how we can solve these problems of having not many girls into hacking and coding, and also not many young children wanting to grow up to come into this culture because of the stereotypes that we have in place. So like the idea of a mini Maker Fair, or maybe like a hack club, would be that STEM ambassadors or people who are in the who hack as a hobby, work at hack spaces, or code as a job, to kind of get together and kind of inspire our younger generation to get involved, because otherwise we'll grow up and we won't have anybody to improve the software that we've currently got. Because at the moment there's like loads of job opportunities for geeks, but like they're not being filled. So we need to kind of inspire people so that we do fill them and we can further advance our technology. So does anybody have like any ideas that we can put up as to how we can solve these problems? Does anybody want to get involved? Mike?
I think certainly something should start at schools, so younger kids of all ages and all genders should. Well, no, as part of school. So
okay,
exposure to code, exposure to hardware, I think should start in school.
Would you be willing to go into schools and teach some of those lessons?
I certainly would try, yes.
So, anybody else?
It's interesting that we did like a school club with 7 to 11-year-olds, and doing like reducing these stereotypes on breakdown. And I think it's really important to get them when they're 7, because they've got a natural bent to being curious and the technology. Yeah.
I think for girls in particular, there is more of an issue because even if they're not doing IT at school, boys tend to have more encouragement from the parents, from the media, from people outside of school. So I think if women who worked in hardware and software could go into schools and actually talk about their experiences, I think young girls can, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think sometimes young girls tend to be afraid as well that if they go into that area, they're going to be going into a sexist culture. So a bit of kind of preparation for that as well, really.
So more female STEM ambassadors?
Yeah, and focusing on the experience of being a woman working in technology, because it's a bit of a scary thing, I think, for young girls, isn't it?
And old.
There is the STEMats. Have you heard of the STEMats?
Right.
And science world and things. So they kind of have campaigns to kind of like work on changing the stereotypes. So we have so the STEMats run workshops for young girls, and there are people from the industry, and there's also science world.
I'm sorry. It's not here.
People for the
Okay, wonderful. So there's an organisation, Women into Computing,
okay.
which is certainly very active in universities. If you get those people to shift their focus a bit and look at schools and school clubs and so on, that is definitely what I see.
Yeah, I think when you put things into the curriculum and you're taught formally by the teachers, there's a slight negative to that.
Yeah, like ICT is kind of confusing
Yeah.
going wrong. What happened when I was at school, which is rather a long time ago, we didn't have anything like that at all in the curriculum, so it was done with clubs. But the good thing about clubs is they were social, and everyone got together and shared, and it was natural to share and teach each other. And I think that either after school or any kind of clubs are probably a good. Because you choose to go there instead of being forced to do it.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
Yep.
I work in schools every day, and I say algorithm or code to a teacher, and the first thing they do is put their head down. We need to educate our teachers at the moment, they don't have the skills to teach it.
I think that's the idea of STEM ambassadors, so they kind of go into schools and can kind of teach the lessons to other teachers, and so the teachers can learn from the STEM ambassadors kind of thing. So, do you have any STEM ambassadors coming into school?
No.
Maybe you could find out more about them, or become one yourself.
I'd love to do that.
I think what you highlighted about playtime being kind of gender stereotype, the thing about boys having Meccano and chemistry sets and girls having Barbie and miniature makeup kits, I think that is something that does need to change.
Well, I was thinking maybe if you did have these colours, then you could kind of make things that are big and pretty or practically, but like put an Arduino in it kind of thing, so you kind of get the interest that way kind of thing.
Yeah.
Go around the fact that you have to fool little girls into getting them into more technologies. So if you go with pink electronics, but then take it a bit further and then you gradually get rid of the pink. You can't literally get rid of the pink because they're just so used to it, they're so conditioned by it. If it's not pink, I'm not going to like it. So you have to go with what we've got, what society has given us, and improve on that.
Yeah, I think one of the problems is that it's very difficult for the people who are teaching this to present the information they want to present in a way that really grabs the child. Because I'm an algorithms and heuristics guy, and I mean, some of that can actually be pitched to be made really exciting with pictures and stuff. But it's actually very hard to figure out how to present that in a way that's going to grab the interest. So I'm just wondering, what was it that actually first brought you into this kind of thing, and how can we present the kind of stuff that we do in a way that can really grab the child?
Well, it was kind of like I started going to the Manchester Science Festival, and they have workshops there about computing and all things STEM. And then the Manchester Weeks they ran a coding workshop, so you kind of get to act like all young people like to play games. So like maybe if they had an idea for their own game, teach them how to make games that gets them into coding. and then maybe make it interactive so then you can have like controlled by an Arduino kind of thing, or make a Wiki or a Raspberry Pi. And then just kind of like get them more and more in depth, and then they kind of grow up with it, and then you can kind of see how fun it is without being told it's fun, like kind of go to learn that it's fun.
So you definitely think games is the way?
Well, yeah, because I don't know many people who don't like games.
Yeah, can I back that up actually? With my experience from my own daughter, who is actually 14, and I would love her dearly to be interested in science or technology. And for me, I think what would actually help to move her forward would be something where there is almost instant gratification from doing something. So you would write one line of JavaScript and something would start dancing on the screen. So I think actually where I've gone wrong is I've actually tried doing anything, and what I've found is anything that takes more than about 15 minutes, and she's just completely lost and just wasted my time and got angry. So something where there are instant results would, that's what I would be pitching for.
Have you showed her
Jane.
Scratch?
Have I showed her?
Scratch.
Scratch.
Scratch is very good for that.
Yeah, look for
Kind of like
live
Dragon Box or
coding.
something?
Great. Well, that's keep the tips coming, guys, because actually that's kind of and gals, of course.
And then, yeah.
Just a personal question, do your friends ever tease you about the stuff you do? Or make any sarcastic comments, or any other
They don't
family
kind
members?
of get it. So like in English we were told to describe ourselves in 2 words. And I said small and geeky. And then they were like, well, she's calling herself geeky, isn't that a bit weird? Isn't geeky like a derogative term? So sometimes like they don't really find it interesting or fun, but yeah, you can kind of get some negative comments, but it's not that bad kind of thing. I think I have nice people.
That's one thing that I've actually actively fought against on Facebook with, say, female friends my age, some 40, and they've got daughters your age. And when I say I'm going off to, Geek Festival or whatever, there's always some sarcastic or snotty comment. And eventually I just started fighting against it, saying, look, you talk about women not going into science, but look what you're doing to me, and your children are seeing this, they're hearing you say, that's not cool, that's bad, it's going to rub off.
Yes. Especially on Twitter, a lot of women get very derogative things for what they're doing and stuff, and it's like, I don't think it's necessary, because they're not doing anything to harm, they're like helping the greater community, and just because they're female doesn't mean that they should be called awful things.
See, and I think that's where one of the problems is. It actually comes from the same peers. Like if you've got a group of female friends and you say you're going to a geek festival, and they say, oh, that's not cool or that's bad. I don't know whether for you, but I can imagine a girl might feel pressure not to continue in that course because their friends don't approve of it.
I tried getting a friend to come along to code. We have a code dojo, and she came along once, and then when we were talking about it at school, they were like laughing at, you can't learn code, you're stupid kind of thing. That was what her friends were calling her, and she hasn't come back since. So I think it is kind of sad that we do tease people about trying to learn a new skill. Because like they wouldn't tease her if she'd gone to like a Justin Bieber gig, which she kind of goes to. So it's like, it's a bit stupid, really. Yes.
I was just going to say, reiterating what somebody said earlier, the media is important. Media attitudes and the way media respond to some of these stories, to things that happen. They almost have to get to the point where we've got to do a bit of positive discrimination first before it can become natural that there isn't any discrimination. And I think getting more media figures involved can help. I mean, I think the big thing I saw recently, I haven't heard anything since, but Will.i.am's going to learn to code, which is really odd, but it's a really good thing.
Yeah, that's what got my friend interested. She came up to me and she was like, Will.i.am's going to learn to code, can you show me how? But then his friends shouted at her, so it's like, it kind of...
But it's a good start, at least it means it'll
This is the
have an
code.
impact.
They do good videos. It's 1 minute, 5 minute and 9 minutes. The 9 minute was really good, but if you don't have time to show someone the 1 minute, sums it up.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that a lot of this is down to the fear factor, because people my age, 40, whatever, don't understand what goes on behind the screen, and that's where we get the media to put positive role models out. Because it's not actually scary, it's the worst thing that can happen to what family won't work. But it is a fear factor, and that's what we need to get over.
We've got to get over this information now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's easy to understand it.
Fox News just did that for like a whole like half an hour segment on GitHub, and they've got everything through.
I think you focus, I mean, there was a couple of, and there was, I think with good reasons, comments around the negative perception. So what you have to do is be aware that it's there, but you're not going to change the media. But what you could do to assist in mitigating that issue is you yourself is a good example. Stand up and say, listen, normal, cool people do this too. It's not just dysfunctional people, you know, the comments that people are getting. And then the other kids in the back of the playground won't be so derogatory or won't, like your friend who got teeth and didn't come back. You know, they'll want to join it in if the media perception changes. And the way to do that is just to present positive role models in the media. So make yourself available for interview.
One thing that I found is that like, at Mad Lab and places, what's really good is that everyone's really supportive. So like before my talk on the A2, like something went wrong with my presentation because the file was too big. So I just tweeted about it, can anybody help with this? And I had loads of people like the company Pangaroni, John. Yeah, so John over there, he tried helping, and then there was someone called Brian Tack who actually eventually fixed the problem. So like people were really eager to help. So I think once you kind of get involved and you know people, it's great because people are friendly, but it's just getting to show that we are friendly people, not scary people.
But what I'm suggesting is exposing yourself in elements that reach out to people who are outside of this community. You know, tweeting about something at Mad Lab, you're reaching within your own community.
I put something on Facebook.
Yeah.
I clicked the thing to change. There's a campaign where they're trying to get people to sign up for a petition to change the dictionary definition of geek. And I shared it on Facebook, on my Facebook. So that's all the people at school. Got one like, so I think one person did it. So I am trying to introduce my friends to it, but I think it's going to be a slow process. Yeah.
I probably agree with this gentleman here to a certain extent. I'm not convinced particularly about the stereotypes being a problem, because I don't wear a kilt, which is probably one of them. I think part of the reason I enjoy this sort of geek thing is it's a kind of cool club that kind of not everyone does it, and I think you want to sort of flip that negative stereotype to be a positive thing. So I think maybe the clubs and the groups maybe need to be more active and try and recruit girls particularly, but more younger people. And because when you get older, you don't really care about stereotypes and what people think anyway. So.
Yeah, but at my age, like 14-year-olds, it's all about being cool. So.
I don't know anything about that. But I think the clubs could themselves, because I agree, maybe necessarily forcing it in the school is not the best way.
So does anybody want to would anybody be willing to go into a school and set up something like this and get more people involved? So it's a good thing. Yeah.
Kind of already do that anyway. Up north at the college, it's like Hartland Technical College. We set up we tried to make it more fun, basically, in terms of coding and things. We started off with our Arduino kits, and we got it set up so that every time a tweet was made to the school, then a little machine made bubbles. And then we got the arts section into that, the arts part of the school, and we made an octopus. And it currently sits in front of the school. Every time the school gets a tweet, it makes bubbles. So new visitors to the school not only get to see what the kids can actually do, but they also see how science can actually make things really cool and fun as well. I think the main block that we've had is that is mainly in media. It's not portrayed as being fun. It's portrayed as someone sitting in front of a computer for hours, coding away on text, and no one understands what that text does except the person writing it. And it's quite a big thing. It's quite a big burden to overcome.
So something that already exists is like Code Club, and that's like a fixed curriculum, where STEM ambassadors can sign up and they can go to schools, and schools can sign up. And so you say that I want to run a club, I want to host a club, and so then they get people together. So that's like focusing on coding. There's nothing for Arduino or Raspberry Pis and things. So I think we need to kind of concentrate on the making as well as the coding. Because coding is like, it's just with a computer screen, so people aren't going to be as willing to get involved. Whereas if you can say, oh, do you want to make something like jump and look pretty, then it's kind of going to be more appealing than you want to make something flashing on the screen.
I think because coding is like almost a language, instead of things like if you choose a language, it has to be French or German or something, I think coding should be in that sort of area.
I could technically, but it's under weird. If I take a student that's talking to you in Python, then it would be a bit odd.
Yeah, well, we need to get kids into learning.
I think you should teach languages, but you kind of, give more options.
Just out of interest, do you do electronics or any form of engineering at the high school?
No, but I've taken product design because I can make products that incorporate arguments because they don't often teach science.
I'm just thinking that 20 years ago I was at a high school that you might have seen on a Thursday night, and we used to do electronics, and there was quite a few students who did that, and I was just interested to see if that part of the curriculum has now vanished.
At my brother's school, they teach soldering and electronics, but at my school they don't. So I'm trying to talk to the headmistress and kind of get something involved.
Earlier about getting people young, because I think a lot of this stuff with stereotypes and peer pressure, there's a lot of pressure on people who aren't conforming. And actually, if you get people really interested and motivated at an early age, so there's actually a lot of people who've got this passion, then you start to attack that. In a way, starting with the younger people is probably the place to be. I also want to turn this around a little bit. It's a lot about making, but I wonder about destroying. Because one of the things that I do with my kids, to put some context, they're 2 and 4. I encourage them, if they want to understand how something works, well, let's take it apart and find out. And actually, you can do a lot there. So even if you've got something that is, particularly it's got a physical process, you've got something with some mechanics in it as well. So even something as simple as a toaster, because that directly means something. They can understand how something works. I think coding is a bit abstract, and it's almost you want to work towards coding later on, when you've got some of the physical ideas a bit better fixed. So I would encourage people to sort of go and get a screwdriver and a toaster and destroy it.
I think you could get people involved instead, like, into destroying and destroy all things.
Kids love to destroy things. They like to make things, but they love to destroy things.
Yeah.
Tear down club.
Destroy and make better. So does everybody like know some? So do you all feel that you can go and maybe help change this now? Yeah? Oh, so if you want to contact me, then email me guys. Then my email address is minnie.geek. Oh, okay. Nice. So I'd quite like to set something up, but obviously I'm quite young, so I can't really do all that much by myself. So if you'd like to help me kind of change these stereotypes and get more people like involved and teach other people about it, then let me know. Do you have a question?
No, just a comment. Just basically in terms of, I think, getting more female mentors to probably in the public space talking about it is probably the best thing we can possibly do. But one of the major things is sort of the fear of getting out there and talking about it because of women, like what you talked about on Twitter. having horrible things sort of said and that sort of thing. So just a collective sort of effort to tamp all that massively down whenever you see it is, I just think, incredibly important.
Another thing that we could try and do is like all the hack spaces I've been to, there's not that many women. So this is something in America called Mothership Hacker Moms, and there's a crash for the kids, and they can do all kinds of hacking things. It's like a hack space, but there's facilities so they can take their young children there, and they can work. And so then their kids are kind of growing up around this kind of thing, which I think is a good thing because instead of growing up around pink and blue and Action Men and Barbie dolls, and instead of growing up around your mother, like making things happen, then that's kind of a good thing. So there's nothing like this in the UK as far as I'm aware. There's just kind of hack spaces. So if it was like more family orientated, then that would kind of be better.
Thank you very much, Amy. I'm sure